So the first thing we gotta do is pit our cherries, and I'm gonna use a cherry pitter because I don't hate myself. You could definitely use a knife if that's all you have, but it's worth the $7. I'm gonna take the stem off and then put it in my handy dandy pitter here and press down on the side. Boom! Pitted cherry. And we're gonna do that 5,000 more times. Definitely don't do this while wearing a really nice shirt. And just like that, they're all done. All right, I'm gonna place my 2 pounds of cherries into a big pot. And then I'm gonna put this on medium-high heat. Add in our water and then our sugar. Depending on how tart your cherries are, you could add more sugar or do less if you want, or leave the sugar out. And then we're just gonna bring that to a simmer. So we're not actually trying to cook these cherries. We're literally just bringing the liquids to a simmer so that it will thicken the cornstarch. And that's really all there is to it. I'm gonna go ahead and combine together my lemon juice and my lemon zest and my clear gel, which is something that bakeries use often to thicken fruits, or you could use cornstarch. And then I'm gonna add in about a tablespoon of water just to make a slurry. So that way our cornstarch will not get clumpy when it starts thickening everything up. It always sticks to the bottom. And this lemon is just gonna brighten that cherry flavor up and just make it taste more fresh. Citrus and fruit love each other. They're like BFFs. Okay. All right, we're almost simmering. Once your liquids are simmering, you can go ahead and add in that cornstarch or clear gel, whichever you have. And then we're gonna add in about 1/4 teaspoon of salt just to enhance that flavor. And then just stir until it all thickens up. And now we're just gonna let it cool down. All right, so to make a cheesecake, you're gonna need a springform pan. This is a handy dandy little pan where the sides detach from the base, so it's easy to get your cheesecake out. Standard cheesecake pan is about 9.5 inches. And then I'm just gonna be placing some parchment paper down on the bottom so that I can remove it from the cheesecake pan later. Crust is super simple, so we're just gonna add in some crushed graham crackers. You can crush your own, or you can buy them pre-crushed if you're lazy like me. Some sugar and melted butter to combine it all together. You could replace graham crackers with any other kind of cracker or cookie. It's the sugar that makes it turn into a crust. You just wanna mix that up until it's just moistened. Pour this into our prepared pan. Some people take the crust and put it up the sides, but I just don't like doing that. I'm just gonna use a measuring cup to just press that down nice and firm, make it nice and flat. And then I'm gonna place this into the oven that's been preheated to 350 degrees for 5 minutes. Once that's done, go ahead and let that cool and change your oven to 335 degrees Fahrenheit. All right, so now we're gonna make the cheesecake filling. I'm using my KitchenAid this time instead of my Bosch mixer because my Bosch is so powerful, I feel like it tends to incorporate too much air. So we're going with the more chilled out old girl here. You can use a hand mixer if that's all you have. Most important thing is you wanna make sure that your cream cheese is at room temperature, because if it's cold, then it's gonna be hard to combine with your other ingredients. And then you wanna put that into the bowl and cream it until it's smooth and lump free. Everything's gonna be on low. We do not want any air in the cheesecake at all. Occasionally I'm just gonna push down that cheesecake so it's all getting mixed up nicely. I'm gonna go ahead and start sprinkling in the sugar while mixing on low. And just scrape the bowl as needed. So the reason why we want to cream the cream cheese until it's smooth before we start adding in our eggs is because if there's any lumps of cream cheese left in there, they are not going to get mixed out when we start adding in other ingredients. So you have to cream until it's smooth first and then add in your eggs. Just gonna scrape that cream cheese that's kind of around the edges. I can still see there's a couple little lumps in there. So after about 5 minutes, everything looks nice and creamy and smooth. So now I'm gonna add in my sour cream and my heavy cream, and then our eggs, one at a time. Whoops, or two. Just gonna scrape the bowl. Go ahead and add in the vanilla and the salt, and then just mix until smooth. All right, that's done. Pour all that in there, smooth it out. As you can see, this is gonna be a very tall and decadent cheesecake. All right, so we're gonna wrap our little cheesecake baby in 2 layers of aluminum foil, and I just kind of tuck the edges down just so they're not in the way. And then we're gonna place that into a half sheet cake pan if you have one, or a really big cookie sheet. And then we're just gonna pour some water in there until it fills the pan about 3/4 of the way up. So the water bath basically keeps the outside of the cheesecake from getting hotter than the center, and that keeps everything nice and level, so you don't have the edges puff up really high while the center stays low. So you don't have any cracks and you don't have any browning. So now we're gonna bake this at 335 degrees for 1 hour. Make sure you leave the oven closed for 60 minutes before you test your cheesecake, or you could risk it collapsing. And then we're going to turn the oven off, crack the oven door, and let it cool down for 1 hour. And this is just gonna help prevent cracks as well. If you don't wanna do a water bath and it just freaks you out, you can just put a pan of water at the bottom of the oven, move the other rack in the oven on top of the pan of water, and then place your cheesecake on top of the water so it's not in the water. And this steam is still gonna help the cheesecake not to crack, but the top might brown a little bit. You know your cheesecake is done when the edges are set and the center has just a little bit of a wobble. It shouldn't look liquidy, just a little bit of a jiggle. If you're really nervous about the center of your cheesecake being finished, you can use a thermometer to check the temperature. It should be about 150 degrees. That will leave a tiny little hole, but nobody's really gonna notice. All right, so after our cheesecake has been chilling out in the oven for that hour, then you wanna go ahead and leave it at room temperature for another hour. Technically, I just put it in the fridge. You know, at some point you're just like, I'm done, okay? Cheesecake. You do wanna let it chill out in the fridge overnight because then it's gonna be a lot easier to serve. It's really warm right now. Don't wanna cut this. Don't do it. All right, it's been 24 hours. Our cheesecake has been chilled fully, so now we get to take it out of the pan. I'm using a creme brulee torch because that is just going to warm the outside just enough so that it will release without damaging it, because I hate using a knife. But if you don't have a creme brulee torch, you can take a little knife and just carefully go around the edge to help it release. And then we're gonna unlatch, and we have our beautiful cheesecake. If you forgot to use parchment paper, then before you take the cheesecake out of the pan, you can wrap it in a layer of tinfoil and put that in some boiling hot water, just about an inch or so, for about 1 or 2 minutes, just until the crust starts to get kind of like a shine to it, and then it will lift right out of the pan. So now that our cheesecake is on its platter and it's been chilling, you can go ahead and serve this, or you can put it back in the refrigerator and it's good there for 5 to 7 days. If you want to see more videos like this one, don't forget to check out the other videos on my channel, and I'll see you guys next week. Bye!